Good morning, HASP scholars. Happy holiday season. Welcome to today's performance. I have a few announcements, my usuals. If you have one of these, and I know you all do, please put it on silent mode. Today, we have one new member and 9 guests. I'm not going to introduce them all, so just please clap your hands and welcome them. Submissions for the HASP review are still open. You can find the directions on how to do that in the HASP happenings or contact Ian or Amy. Please consider that for those of you who are aspiring artists or authors. It's open to you now. On a personal note, a couple months ago, one of you, and I can't remember who, gave me a basket of rocks. Thank you. She loved the rocks, and I couldn't remember who gave them to me. So. All right, that mystery is solved. So, before we go any further, let's do my quote of the month. You know I love to do this. This is a time of year, we're in the holiday season now. It's a time of optimism, of joy, of family, of positivity. So I thought I would quote Abraham Lincoln, who's somewhat quotable. We can complain that a rose bush has thorns, or we can celebrate that a thorn bush has roses. Isn't he great? All right, my part of this program is complete. Marilyn Schmidt will now come up and introduce our guests for today, our performers. Marilyn?
Thank you, John. Good morning, everyone. On behalf of the monthly program committee, we're very pleased to welcome our 4 guests who will share information with us this morning about the Holland Symphony Orchestra's initiative called Music Unites Us. Those guests are Kay Walvoord, President and CEO of the Holland Symphony Orchestra, Greg Scheer, a West Michigan-based composer, and Christian Garcia, who's a member of the local band Groupo Super Nova. In addition, we are going to be entertained by music by Samuel Nalangira. Probably not very close, Sam, sorry. But he is a musician and a vocalist and an educator, and he's going to share music from his native Uganda. So thank you very much for being here this morning. We hope you enjoy this morning's program. 4 guests may come up on the stage.
Thank you for this invitation to share what was one of the more innovative and creative concerts that Holland Symphony has ever produced. You've heard our origin story, and we'll hear it in the little video that we will begin this program with. And with that, let's listen to the video.
Tonight's program was a special concert by Holland Symphony called Music Unites Us.
It began with a mariachi concert, a group that we brought from LA, and we began to think, I wonder what other diverse groups there are in Holland.
And there was kind of a call to include a more wholesome, diverse group from the community. And so we put the call out, and a bunch of people came from all ethnicities and from all backgrounds.
A singer from Vietnam, an accordionist from Ukraine, a drummer, instrumentalist from Uganda, an cumbia band from Mexico. The last one was kind of a surprise. I was thinking ethnic diversity, but we just used the word diversity, and Julie LeBrand applied, and we thought, a blind violinist would be a way to highlight a different diversity. It's just really important that we celebrate all kinds of music and music within our own community. Different styles, different composers, underrepresented composers. It enriches all of us. I mean, music unites us.
Whenever I come out to Michigan, I'm just so impressed by this community and how serious people take music and the arts. It's really been amazing to see the response to some of the projects we've been trying to do with Holland Symphony in the community, so I couldn't be happier. This obviously is a big project because the music had to be arranged. We had to find an arranger composer who would work with the soloist, and then arranger would write pieces for the orchestra so we could collaborate effectively.
And so this project has taken us about 18 months.
And so it really took a village. It's really all the stuff that happens behind the scenes. The artistic committee, Kay Walvoord, the board of the symphony, our DEI committee, and especially the arranger, Greg Scheer.
The rehearsals have just been absolutely magical. It's really been a wonderful way to build community and reach our entire community, which was our goal. We hope to continue this Music Unites Us program in different ways, hoping every year to do something to explore.
HollandSymphony.org, our webpage. Also, we have a YouTube page. If you just go to YouTube, type in Holland Symphony, it should come up. So this is a great way to get involved and to learn more about what we do and what our projects are in the future.
That little video was produced by the City of Holland, and if you want to find that again on YouTube, you have to look up the City of Holland and then Music Unites Us. So that sort of gives a little preview of our origin story and how this program, Music Unites Us project, began. But where do you start? How do you find a composer for a project like this? How do you get the word out? How would anyone even apply if we did get the word out? And how do we pay for this project? Those were the beginning questions. When you're incorporated by the state of Michigan as a nonprofit, the state of Michigan really commissions the board of a nonprofit to act on their behalf. And that means that the mission of the organization has to be fulfilled in all aspects of the community, not just the white, classical, European, traditional orchestra audience. So that's always the dilemma for an arts performing group, an orchestra, if you will. One of the things we learned from the mariachi concerts of the past was there's such a difference in style in attending a concert or any event. For example, in the mariachi concert, our classical audience sat quietly and patiently, hands folded, listening intently. And in the mariachi portion of the concert, the audience clapped and sang and swayed, and some even got up and danced. It was a very different style, and so you can see why some people might be a little less inclined to come to the Jack Miller and listen to a classical concert, not being quite in their comfort zone. So this is always the dilemma of an orchestra. How do we tap into concerts and performances that everyone will enjoy in our community, which is what we're commissioned by the state of Michigan to do. With me this morning are three people who participated in that concert last summer in Collin Park. Christian Garcia, over on my left, is from Mexico. He serves as both a singer-songwriter, the drummer of the organization, and the spokesperson for Groupo Super Nova. I hope Christian will tell you a little bit about his experience about performing with a classical group and what that meant. Samuel Nalangira is a native of Uganda. He's a folk world musician, a dancer, a choreographer, and he's toured all over the world. He's a multi-instrumentalist and has developed a unique approach to music, using his voice in songs from his native Uganda. Greg Scheer is a freelance composer, author, speaker, bassist in a jazz group. Greg's also a music associate at Calvin Institute of Christian Worship. If you are from the RCA or CRC traditions, you'll most likely find Greg's name in the back of your hymnal, as he is a prolific composer of ethnic hymnology. So our first issue was, how do you find a composer? Well, Facebook, of course. Although that's not what our music director would have asked me to start with. Still, my kids have taught me that if you want to find specific people to do specific things, you ask on Facebook. So I did. And within a few minutes, I received a message from a former member of the orchestra who I respect greatly, and he said, "You must talk to Greg Scheer." Well, I didn't know Greg Scheer at all, but not only does Greg have composition chops, he also has a philosophy that resonated with us trying to develop this Music Unites Us project. And that was that he insisted that before he would take on this project or compose the pieces, he would visit with each of the groups at least twice during the performance so that he got to know them as people, got to know their style, and was not imposing his composition style on their music. That was really important to all of us as we developed this project. The second was getting the word out. We had over 1,500 postcards circulated throughout the community with every fair and every festival, every summer thing that we could attend. The members of our DEI committee spread the word, spread the postcards, and we used Facebook again and social media to promote the program. Third, would anyone even apply for this project? We did have 10 applications and selected 4 artists to work with Greg. One of those groups was Groupo Super Nova, and I would like Christian to just spend a few minutes telling us about his group and how it was to work with Greg.
Good morning, everyone. Buenos días. My name is Christian Garcia, as Kay mentioned. So our band goes back to the early 1990s. The band is formed of 4 brothers. We migrated to Holland, Michigan. We're originally from Puebla, Mexico. Puebla, Mexico is about 2.5 hours south of Mexico City, so that's a pretty far drive to Holland, Michigan. We still ask my father why he chose Holland, but I'm glad that he did. We've lived our whole life here in Holland. My brothers and I attended Holland High School. Do we have any Holland High School alumni here? Awesome. And so our passion was always music and soccer. Our mom, growing up, she and my father would always sign us up to perform at the local Laú festivals, Grand Rapids festivals, and at a young age we did not. We only used toy instruments. We just played over the music. And so as we grew up, we still loved music, and my father decided to invest in us, and we purchased a bass, a guitar, and a drum set. I was still pretty young. I was about 8 years old when my brother has kind of said, you know what, you're going to be the drummer, and you better learn. So my brothers and I were about a couple years apart each, and so we began to learn music. And my father, as he saw that we were learning and loving it more, we have an uncle in Puebla who was able to get his visa and come visit us for a month. And he went to music school, and he knows a lot of instruments, and so he came for a month, and we spent a whole summer in our basement learning how to, work together as brothers, because we would always be arguing, and how to perform. So after that, we had our first gig in Grand Rapids at a local bar, which is kind of not right, I was 10. But it happened. So we performed, and we started, growing up, and we still love music. So we continued to develop the love for music. We eventually were able to purchase other instruments. We became known in the community. We started performing other festivals, private parties now, weddings. We started going around Midwest and just traveling around. And the band still exists today. We will be 27 years old as a band in July. So we're still doing music. Sometimes we decide to, we talk about ending the career, and we call it quits. But then one of us just gets everybody excited, and then there we go again, another summer. But working the opportunity that came with, I received some communication via email about this project. We initially did not, we didn't know how to kind of, since we've never done something like that before, we talked about it and how it was going to work, seeing how, the process of it and the amount of time that we had. So we sat down with Greg, and I kind of mentioned him of the style of music that we perform, how many band members were there. We showed him one of our songs. And so based on that, we had a couple of meetings, and he came to watch us practice once he kind of had the piece all set. And so it was a couple of months where he gave us the music. He says, practice, we'll see you the day before the performance. And you only have about 10 minutes, so make sure you learn the song. So we listened to Greg, and we spent a lot of time, a couple of days, listening to the music and getting things down. And for us, it was an honor. The level of expertise of Greg, and just the level of the orchestra, the symphony itself. It was just amazing to see how, first of all, they love the music, and second of all, how they were able to bring our style of music into a piece like that. Definitely an honor, and also something that was really valuable to us to see is music does bring people together, and a lot of our culture and a lot of our people were there, and they were really excited to see this happening in town. And so it's something that we definitely loved. We would definitely do again, and definitely, hats off to Kay for and the committee and everybody that was there who put this together, because it's definitely a great event that brought people together.
Thank you. Greg certainly had his challenges cut out for him when when we chose the groups for him to work with. Only one of the groups could read music. So they had to learn the piece and then reproduce that exactly so that it would fit with the orchestra. I mean, a lot of the style of these groups is to improvise as you go along. So to fit with an orchestra that's sitting there with their music, it was a challenge to all of them. They had 2 rehearsals with the orchestra, about 10 minutes each, and it was sink or swim, and it really turned out to be a magical event. Then, after the groups were chosen, and Greg set to work on the project, how are we going to pay for this? Well, in a free concert in the summer at Collin Park, there's no ticket income. So we depended greatly on the sponsorship income. And it's just absolutely essential. And all of the sponsors that became involved with the project did so because of the diversity, equity, inclusion aspect of the concert. And that was really appreciated as well by the audience. The main sponsors were Miller Knoll Foundation and Gentex. Additional sponsors were Makatawa Area Coordinating Council, the Brooks family, Michigan Arts and Culture Council, and the National Endowment for the Arts. Without their help, this would not have been possible. So with that, I'd like you to hear from Greg as to the process involved in the project and what he went through in creating these pieces. There was one other musician that you saw in the video, Julia LeGrand, and as we went along in the project, Julia had applied, and my original intention, the intention of our DEI group, was that these would be ethnically diverse. But we didn't say ethnically diverse, we said diverse. And when she applied for the project, we thought, wow, that we should do Julia as well, because that's highlighting another aspect of diversity that isn't addressed very often. Julia had to learn, of course, there's abundant material for violin and orchestra, so Greg didn't need to compose anything for her. But, think about how a violinist would learn music in Braille and be able to then perform with an orchestra. So that was kind of an interesting and exciting addition to the program. Now, Greg, if you would take over.
Yeah. So as has been alluded to already, the big problem, opportunity presented to me was that it's a melding of musical worlds. So a symphony is, they work by eye rather than ear. Obviously, they use their ears to, stay in tune and those kinds of things. But for the most part, you hand the person the symphony a sheet of music, and they play what's on the sheet of music. They play it well or poorly, but they are all going from the same script. And that's a fairly unusual thing in the larger context of world music. In most places in the world, things are learned by ear rather than by eye. And a lot of Western musicians underestimate the difficulty of getting those gears to go together. But I've worked with enough people from around the world that I know that is going to be an issue. So then the real challenge with the whole project was to figure out, how do I blend these two things together without having a total crash and burn at the first rehearsal? So as Christian said, one of the things, we'll get to his piece in a minute, but one of the things that happened in his piece was that I needed to change the form of the song. And so this is a song that they've played probably hundreds of times, in various places, and they do it their way. And then I'm saying, okay, but I want you to put that part over here and then not sing this part, and then, so they had to kind of relearn their song in order to work with the orchestra. So there was a real give and take. So I'll talk a little bit about the specific give and take that happened throughout. We'll start with Nina's piece. Nina Tratanachenko plays the Bayan Orchestra, which is a double buttons. So rather than the typical American accordion that has the keys on the one side and buttons on the other, it has all buttons. And that's a very common instrument throughout the world. So the Bayan accordion is her instrument. And there are pieces that are already written for this in a more or less classical style. So this had a less of an issue of kind of cultures colliding. She chose a piece, Minka is the name of the tune, and she had a set of variations written on this Ukrainian tune, the beautiful Minka. And this has actually been used, I think Beethoven wrote some variations on this, although she didn't use the Beethoven variations. But in any case, the challenge with this is that the variations were already written. Okay, so I couldn't change any of that. That was set in stone, and then I had to work around it. So let's take a quick listen to what I heard her playing of one of the variations of Minka. Sense of it, right? You get the boom, bum, 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 boom, that kind of oompah going on, and then in this particular case, the melodies, these arpeggios. So one of the things I was quite pleased with when we translated that into the orchestra, of course, some of the oompah kinds of things, those have been done in orchestras for years. So, you know, you can have the basses on the boom and then have the violas and the horns and on the chop, chop, chop. But the thing that I liked about this, knowing that I had to keep her line intact, in this particular variation, I decided to, instead of have a solo bayan, I would add a violin to make it a duet. So listen to the night of the performance, same part. Here we go. Listen for the violin. So you can hear how, you know, that was the kind of the fun of the piece, is to figure out, well, how can I build this out from that kind of center of what she would be doing. With Groupo Super Nova, it became more complicated because the band does what's called cumbia music, and the cumbia music is a very rhythmic music. And there are two issues with this that I had to address. The first is that most Western orchestras are not primarily rhythmically based, okay? I mean, they obviously are using rhythm, but that is not the primary element in terms of melody, harmony, rhythm, and all those kinds of things. So that's the first issue, is that, you know, we kind of had to get the orchestra in the groove, and there's, you know, how do you get a group of classically trained musicians to create kind of dance rhythms? That was the first issue. The second issue is that Groupo Super Nova is used to playing by themselves, all right? So they already have the full rhythm section. They have the bass, the drums, the guitar. They have everything already encapsulated in the music. So how do you put an orchestra with that in a way that complements the music rather than fights? Right, so I'm a bass player by my main instrument, and one of the things I've noticed when I play with a symphony and I do pops concerts is that there's always this problem. If there's an electric bass, I might as well not be playing, because you're going to hear the electric bass, but you're not going to hear me on the string bass. So trying to figure out how to mesh those things rather than having them compete. So let's listen to the very beginning. This is in each of these cases, I'm playing you the music that I had to go from. And sometimes it was pretty scarce. In some of the situations, it was pretty scarce. But in this case, we had a fully recorded piece of music, and this is the original of Sufro por tu amor.
Sigo sufriendo por tu amor, sabiendo que no es lo mejor, le estoy haciendo daño a este pobre corazón.
So you can hear there that cumbia rhythm breaks in, okay? So now here, in the concert, I translated that. And this was a fairly easy translation, the beginning part before that beat comes in. Let's listen to that. I guess I have to press it twice.
Sigo sufriendo por tu amor, sabiendo que no es lo mejor. Le estoy haciendo daño a este pobre corazón.
All right, so then you can hear in that place that the beat comes in. One of the difficulties for the group is that they, in their original recording, they always kind of snuck in with the beat. And I knew that was just a recipe for disaster with the orchestra. So that's why I just said, okay, just give me a 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we're in. So it was really great fun, and Johannes did a great job. The conductor did a great job of seeing where those kinds of problems might come up. And then, you know, so in this particular case, many conductors would be like, no, you're not counting off 4 for me. I'm going to bring the orchestra in, right? But he was humble enough to say, no, I can see that they've got to set the rhythm on this one, and then we'll follow on that. So it was this kind of give and take between the two kind of music cultures. I'll quickly play a little bit at the end of this piece. Let me no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go talk about Samuel. So Samuel Nalangira, he is a Ugandan performer. And we hit it off right away. I mean, I hit it off with all of the people. They're just great people to work with. But I had been to Uganda, and so that was a really fun starting point for us. And of course, there are all sorts of different music cultures within a country, but it was really fun to kind of, we did a little bit of jamming in his musical man cave down in his basement. So the difficulty with Samuel's piece, the piece that we finally decided on was a piece. Are you going to play this today? The Babadier? No, you're not going to play this today. Okay, I'll just tell you about it. We often think of African music as being very rhythm-oriented and dance-like. In this particular case, the song, just like every culture, there are different kinds of music. And this particular song is really a ballad, and it's just a beautiful ballad. But the trick is that it essentially has 4 chords throughout. It's just this repeated 4 chords with the kind of harp-like figure of the adungu. The adungu, which you'll hear later, has this very harp-like kind of sound. It's really mesmerizing. But the difficulty is it happens over and over and over again. And so then how do I, as an arranger, a composer, how do I flesh that out so that it doesn't become boring and so that it gives the orchestra something really useful to do? So let's hear how that worked in concert. Challenge, because essentially I had to take the implications of what Samuel's original music was. And I had to kind of imagine if we were to kind of, take that from, I don't know, black and white into color, what would the colors be, right? So I was really fleshing around it, and it's almost like his original piece is laying on this orchestral bed of accompaniment. It was and I think it worked really well. It just kind of, took it to another level. Even though the original is just beautiful by itself, I think it really worked well. One of the most challenging pieces was the Vietnamese singer Kung Lung. There were real difficulties in terms of language. First of all, because he doesn't speak a ton of English, and Google Translate can only go so far when translated between Vietnamese and English. And so I very quickly realized that I needed to get a translator involved. But the other reason is just simply Vietnamese is so much further away from English. It's one thing, I took some Spanish in high school. I understand what is happening in the language. When I look at Vietnamese, I'm just completely confused, right? And then it creates problems. How do I Google something in Vietnamese, right? And I've learned some tricks over the years, copy and paste in Google is your friend. But it was very, very difficult to work with. It was very difficult to even find Kung Lung online because it turns out, thousands of Kung Lungs in Vietnam. So his piece was really fun because it's just a barn burner. It's just this massive piece, kind of Hollywood. And so I knew that my job on this particular one was just to put the pedal to the metal, musically speaking, and just let it go. So let's see if this is the original. I've listened to this recording 100 times, and it's distorted, and it was driving me crazy. So you get an idea. It's kind of a big, bombastic, orchestral, kind of Hollywood type of thing. And I also knew that I couldn't veer too far from the original because I didn't want Kung to lose his way in it. So this is what we came up with. Oh, I should say, hold on one second. What you're going to hear is this little trick that I used. So there's an instrument in Vietnam, let me remember what it's called. Yes, the Vietnamese dango. And it's a little bit like the Chinese erhu, if you know that. You might be a little bit more familiar, but it's a violin sound that has a very nasally sound. And so to capture that sound, I found out a long time ago that I could actually put clothespins on the bridge of the instrument. You know how violins sometimes use a mute, right? And that just dampens it? If you put a clothespin on the mute, it kind of damps off certain frequencies, and so it gets a very nasally kind of sound. And so it was super fun. In the rehearsal the first time, I knew this would work, and my only fear was that some violinists, I had one tell me one time, "You mean that you want me to put a clothespin on my $10,000 instrument?" And I'm like, yes, that's exactly what I'm asking you to do. But when we first did it in rehearsal, it was funny. Like, everybody just starts looking around like, what is that? So take a listen to this. It's really fun.
Dòng máu lạc hồng 4.000 năm, dòng máu đỏ tươi cháy trong tim mình, nổi sông lạc hồng, sống sông tiên nguyện ôm bao đời đất mẹ, nhịp rống hào hùng ai còn vang.
I'm going to stop it there. But you get the idea. So once again, it's this idea, I usually call this transplanting. We talk about in language, you translate something, but in art, you have to transplant it. You have to take it from its original place, and you have to honor the original music enough that you're not just, taking it through the meat grinder and, sending out the other end looking a lot like all the rest of your art. You want to take that thing, but then you have to transplant it into a new environment in a way that it thrives in its new environment. So I call that musical transplanting, and that's a lot of what we're doing. I'm going to sit down, and we're going to take just a couple questions before Samuel plays, and anything that you want to hear more about from us. No, because most, well, all right, no, I should say once. I knew from experience that most other cultures don't tune to A440, that it's not a concern. And so I knew that with Samuel that I needed to be very, very sure that I knew what the pitch of his instrument was, and I knew that he could keep it consistently. Now, he plays a lot with other instruments, so he is going to be in pitch. It's not going to be slightly off. So there's no problems there.
Was this program recorded?
Yes. So all of these are on YouTube?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so the question is, can you hear the concert? And I think the whole thing is on there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so if you go to the Holland Symphony Orchestra YouTube channel.
Yes.
Yeah.
Another interesting thing about the follow-up is there were people from San Antonio at this concert and from Fort Worth, and both are interested in how we develop this, and they have constituencies very similar to the Holland demographic, and so they're very interested in this concept. Also, I just heard this morning from Christian that Southwest Symphony has approached him about doing something similar, so it's an idea that's of interest to other orchestras.
And I'll just add that one of the things that we have talked about is there is this difference in musical cultures. And so, the symphony has developed in Western cultures this kind of temple of Western culture. And there are all these conventions about when you can clap and when you can't clap and all those kinds of things, right? And that's fine. It just is what it is, right? Culture is culture. But the problem is that when you go to a symphony, you see a certain kind of person, generally older, generally white. And so this is what orchestras are trying to deal with right now is how can we get another generation listening to the orchestra, coming out to the orchestra? How can we get non-white people interested in the orchestra? And so I thought this was just, a stroke of genius. This kind of more collaborative approach, I think, was just a really wonderful answer to that. I think we could do one more question before Samuel plays.
This is not a question, but this is a recommendation. There is a fabulous museum in Phoenix, which you probably know about, the American Music. It's called the Musical Instrument Museum, and it features music from the entire world. And it's interactive. When you're there, you just walk up to an exhibit and it turns itself on and plays the music with video of the people doing it. And I think Holland Orchestra and your composition would fit very well there.
We're going to take some questions later. We don't want to miss out on hearing Samuel play. So let's have Samuel come up and play, and then, come on up, Samuel. And then we'll take some more questions later.
Good morning. Yeah, as they say, my name is Samuel Nalangira. I was so surprised to hear everyone speaking it in the right way. It's being difficult for people to say my last name, Nalangira. And the instrument I'm going to play you, it's called Dungu. It's originally from Uganda, but you're not going to find it in Uganda like this because I build my instruments from scratch. This is the instrument I just built here this year, I think 5 months ago. But I have a ton of instruments. I have like 30 instruments plus. So if I decide to bring my instruments here, that means we're gonna spend a day here, the night, a week, month, years. Then we may even forget going back home. So today I'm gonna only play for 10 to 15 minutes. So I'm not gonna keep you here. So the song I played on the orchestra, it was called Babidie, which means my Babidie is, I composed that song for my daughter, a twin. For us in our culture, when you give birth to twins, if they're both girls, the first one will be named Babidie. Then the second one will be Nakato. If they're both boys, the first one will be Waswa, the second one will be Kato. So when you give birth to the twins, you become like a queen to the family. And also your name as a mother changes totally to Nalongo. The father's name changes to Salongo. So it's a very big thing in my culture where I come from. That's why I composed the songs when my child was born, 2 of them, but I did for Babidie. And also I had some for Kato, but maybe the next orchestra, it will be Kato. Yeah, not Babidie. So the song I'm gonna play you, it's called Abandoned Child. So it was someone who was abandoned by the family, by the friends, and I went looking for her. She was staying in the mountain alone. No one could go see her. So I didn't do it, but I just imagined the story. Because for me, I just imagine, then I write the story. And I know things like that, they happen. So you never know, it may happen to someone else. So when it happens to someone else, we'll just go listen to my song and say, oh, seems like this person. So what was going to happen? So enjoy the song. Nkanda zegendo zize nakunonya uli wa mumbuziza abasinga tebamanyi wajo wagenda abooluganda bo balagawa emikwano mwe mwabeeranga yatoli mwanyoko gwe nayagalanga ennyo yatawa kulaba oli omu weka tolina akakulabirira kulaba oli omu weka tolina akakulabirira kubanga obeera eno obeera eno weka wakati w'ensozi obeera eno obeera eno weka wakati w'ensozi lwaki tewasibula lwagenda omunange sigala onzeka nga nebuuza omukwano yalagawa kulaba oli omu weka tolina akakulabirira kulaba oli omu weka tolina akakulabirira ayaya obeera eno Thank you. This is the instrument sometimes I play for people like you. So whenever I'm gonna have a show, I ask for the kind of the audience I'm gonna meet. If they say, oh, the people gonna meet, they're not going to stand up and dance, then I say, okay, let me take this one. So if they say, you know, you're going to go to the festival where people are going to be, yeah, then I take another instrument. So sometimes when you come to my place, I just say, you choose any instrument you want me to play for your gig. Then you choose. But when you're choosing, you have to be careful. You may choose the wrong one. Okay, so we're gonna do this song, but we're gonna sing together on this one. Okay? Can you just say ka le iva? Ka le va. You gonna say? Kaleva. Oh, you never told me these people can sing. Oh my goodness. Okay, we're gonna try that. So in Africa, our music, we have call and response. So I'm gonna call Semusaja again, then you answer Kaleva, okay? Can we try it? Okay, I'm gonna call, then you answer Kaleva. Okay, now let me go. Semusaja agenda. 1, 2. Ndabira balyekeyo 1, 2. Akanyonyi kali kuluzi go. Ikambadde ensimbi again. Wow, now let me put the music in. Semusaja agenda ndabira balyekeyo akanyonyi kali ku luzzi kambadde ensimbi Semusaja ndabira balyekeyo akanyonyi kali ku luzzi kambadde ensimbi Semusaja agenda ndabira balyekeyo akanyonyi kali ku luzzi kaleba kaleba. Now you're following the music. Kaleba. Without me. Let me sing. Semusaja ndabira balyekeyo. Oh, thank you. Okay, so let us sing this last one. Yeah? This one, I'm very sure everyone knows it. Let me see. I don't know whether you're going to guess it, and I'm not going to tell you. They know the song, eh? Yeah, this is a Uganda song, isn't it? Yeah? Oh. fear of the snow, okay? Feel free to sing this song. Can we go? 1, 2, 3, we go. Thank you. So, these instruments are totally different. This is what we play as a solo guitar. That's why I can play any song on this instrument. But this one, it has some limit because it's my own version. I created my own version or way of tuning. That's why I'm telling you, you're not going to find it anywhere tuned like this. It's my own version of tuning. But this one is common everywhere. Anyone who plays adum can play this one. But not everyone who plays adum can play this one. This one you have to come and I give you my knowledge to play this one before you play it. Because I just created my own style of playing it and the way, yeah. Thank you.
So now that you've heard Samuel play, if you have questions for Samuel or further questions for any of us, we'd be glad to take those.
I would like to know how many people in the audience were at the performance in the summertime.
All right.
Samuel, may we see the larger instrument turn to the side, please? Could I just see it from the side rather than face on? No. Okay. Sideways? Oh, beautiful. How many strings?
That's 17 strings. 17.
Thank you.
Yeah.
If you were counting with me, you know, you can tell the number now.
I'd like to commend Kay and the Holland Symphony for bringing that concert this summer. And I'd also like to corroborate the point that was made about Phoenix and their World of Music Museum. When we went there, it was suggested we go for 2 hours, and honestly, I went, 2 hours. Well, we could have spent 8. It was just riveting to put music from around the world, and it's also visual context so that you could see where and how the music was played. And it gave you a whole new, much, much broader worldview appreciation of the styles of music, kind of music. And so I would highly encourage anyone to do that. It was really good.
So our next challenge for the orchestra is, how do we continue this? How do we continue this project? How do we continue this inclusive concert? And one of the criticisms of last summer was that it was too little of each one. They would have liked to have heard more from each one of the musicians. And so, you know, do we use a couple of the musicians and have a broader reach, or how do we change this? How do we keep it going? How do we continue to work with Greg? He's just been such a great person to work with, not only artistically, but just so easy to work with in all of our ups and downs and stops and starts. I actually wrote 4 different grants for this project, all of which were turned down. And so our sponsorship was especially important. I'm not quite sure, and Greg and I are not quite sure why they were turned down, whether the concept was too small or too limited. I'm not sure, but it's something that we want to continue in some way.
I have a question out of curiosity. I know the orchestra uses the oboe, and they tune all the orchestra to the oboe. I was wondering how you tune an instrument like that, and what do you use as a basis for tuning it?
You mean this one?
Yes.
So I tune this instrument in a major scale. I don't know whether I'm saying the right thing. So, and once you tune this instrument, it stays in only one key. So this one is tuned in F. But, so all our African instruments just tune it at once. But I created this instrument whereby I can change like one note, then it goes to another key. But it can just go on in 2 keys. So, so that's why this was a little bit unique from the other African instruments. But we just tune in 1 key. If it's F, it's F. So if you play the song not in F, that means you've thrown me out. So I have to be the leader, the leading key. So that's why when you come to my performance, you find I have a lot of instruments. Each one it has a different key, yeah. So I have to tell you, my instrument is in F sharp, or it's in F, or it's in A, or it's in G. Yeah, and it takes time to tune it. That's why you have to be careful with it. Remember, tuning is one string per string. It's not like a guitar. You're gonna tune on a 6th string, then you play all the keys. So it's sometimes tough, but
Samuel, do you use an electronic tuner when you tune?
Oh yeah. I use a tuner on my phone, and sometimes I have a tuner. I don't know how you call it. The one you just tap on it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but also I have a tuner on my phone, so I make sure that I get the right notes on. Yeah, sometimes if I'm gonna play with someone, but if I'm gonna be alone, I just tune by ear. That's what I do.
So let me just jump in on that. You actually brought up something that I didn't know could have been a nightmare. It just occurred to me that Samuel could have showed up with this not tuned to A440, and we wouldn't have really thought about it, and it would have been a train wreck. But most people do tune to A440 now because it's so standard, and if you're going to play, for example, he often uses his adungu with a keyboard, for example. So then he's got to make it in tune that way. And then the other thing about this, when he was talking about different scales and how to tune it, it's almost like a regular harp where you have the pedal, and you put down the pedal and all the E's turn to E flats, that kind of thing. So then he has one scale, but then he changes some of the notes, and then he can go to a kind of a neighboring scale with that. But it's really, from my perspective, it's not limiting exactly, but it's a very specific thing, because if he's attuned to G, he's not going out of G, right? He's going to be in G for the whole song because he's not going to tune in the middle of it. So it's a big factor for the kind of music that we make and the way that we can work with it. I can't say, oh, for our big finish, let's modulate to A flat.
I want to thank you for your instruments and the instrument of your voice. It was beautiful.
Thank you.
We've got plenty of time. A couple more questions.
Quick question. Samuel, where do you live?
I live in Asigo right now.
In Otsego?
Asigo, yes.
So do you perform in the area regularly?
Yeah,
Or
yeah, I perform all over the U.S.
how about West Michigan? Where could we hear you perform?
What's that?
Where could we hear you locally perform? Is there any place?
Yeah, it's sort of like it's so hard to tell until maybe you go to my website.
Oh, okay.
It will tell you all the shows I'm going to be performing too.
Perfect, thanks.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, once again, the monthly meeting committee, led by David Blatt and Marilyn Schmidt, has delivered. So please put your hands together for Samuel and our panel. As we head towards the new year, remember, we don't dwell on thorns, we celebrate roses in HASP. Have a happy holidays and safe travels. I love you all. I'll see you in January.